Telemetry systems have become a game changer in tracking environmental conditions. They can save time, money, and increase safety. In this video, we're going to cover wiring a logging pressure transducer, the Seametrics PT2X. The PT2X, like almost all Seametrics environmental sensors, can communicate via SDI-12 and Modbus. In this example, we're going to focus on the SDI-12 to talk to the Signal Fire Ranger. The added benefit of using a PT2X is it allows me to record a separate file from the Ranger internally. In case something happens to my telemetry system, I have the data stored on the sensor to retrieve in person. So let's get started with how to wire an SDI-12 sensor.
In this SDI-12 instructional video, we're going to be connecting the Seametrics PT2X sensor to a Signal Fire Ranger wireless telemetry system. The reason why we're using the PT2X is this unit does include its own internal batteries, plus its own internal logger. That's what I want on this installation because I do want backup data should this unit lose power or something happen to it. Signal Fire Ranger does come with a tool, a USB cable, a quick start guide with quick links to all of their and QR codes to all of their software, manuals, and documentation that you'll need to connect to and work with this unit. Now, the PT2X does come standard either with a connector or a flying lead assembly. In this installation, I'm actually going to use one of our flying lead adapters that connects to the field cable. So that way, if I want to, I can change out sensors anytime on the fly and just use this connection here. I could use a bulkhead fitting. However, the enclosure will not allow me to actually install it this way. So I'm actually going to take this and drop it down through a pipe, similar to this that threads into the unit, and connect to our field cable. Now, please know, I can always disassemble this field cable and connect it directly with the pre-tinned leads that are inside this. However, I do want that flexibility of connecting to this in the field. The first thing I'm going to do with my telemetry system is locate the SDI-12 card on the top. As you can see, I have a ground, a data, and a power terminal. May not need the power terminal if I'm going to self-power the PT2X. It'll be my choice to use it, but it'll be important to make sure that I keep the batteries topped off in the PT2X, just to make sure they buffer the power coming from the unit. I will need to pull the cable through the bottom around this battery and connect to the sensor. Considering your cable runs through whatever enclosure you're working with is very important. Make sure you have the long enough cable to do so. So you can see with this flying lead adapter, this connector might be a problem. It might be too big to fit inside the unit. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off and tip the wires like I've done on these already, the wires I won't be using because these are the Modbus wires. Now I'm connecting SDI-12. So right here, I can take this apart and tip these wires so that way they're not making any contact with anything while they're not being used. I have now modified this flying lead accessory so that now all the wires that I'm not going to use, including the ones under the connector, have been tipped so they don't make accidental contact with anything, as well as the Modbus wires on the flying leads. Since I'm doing SDI-12, I'm going to need the brown wire for my SDI-12 signal, and I'm going to need the grounding wire, which is blue. I may not need the power wire if I just want to run the PT2X off its own internal batteries. If I want to give it auxiliary power, I can connect this. However, I do need to make sure that the PT2X that has the logger and battery options on it has batteries in it, as the batteries will help buffer the power from the battery system here, should there ever be a little bit of a spike. We are now ready to wire. I've already pulled the flying lead accessory through my adapter, through the 1/2-inch female pipe thread port on the bottom of the Signifier Ranger. My power is disconnected. I do not want this connected when I'm wiring or disassembling this unit. Always disconnect power first, then reconnect when your work is done. I am now going to connect the wires as described: blue to ground, brown to data, and white to power. Now that we have it wired, we have my power, which I decided to connect, my brown wire for SDI-12, and the blue wire for ground. Now that this is connected up, I also added a zip tie to help keep things a little bit more manageable. Cable management is actually very crucial when doing any wiring with an SDI-12 system.
To set up our sensor so it will log independently of the data logger telemetry system as backup, I'm going to connect my PT2X to my Aqua4 Plus software 2.0. Once the sensor is recognized, I'm going to make sure that we have no data files set up first. I'm going to check my status, my memory, my battery, and my charge. I am definitely set up for battery power on this unit, but right now the battery charge is not correct. I have just reinstalled new batteries. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to take a look at my time setup. Looks like we're a bit off on time. So first I'm going to get into the first step. I'm going to get into the proper year on the proper day. And at this point I can sync my time with PC. And I'm going to say put in fresh batteries and save. Next, I'm going to set up a log file. I don't need to calibrate the sensor, but I am going to double check it for 0. So we're going to go ahead and check this. I'm going to just do depth submergence and continue. I'm going to put 0.00 in and measure. I'm going to click OK, apply, and save. I'm going to collect some real-time data real quick and just view it. And I want to make sure that we're around 0, which we are. I'm going to stop. And now I can actually go in and set up a log file. So here I'm going to say test site tripod, since I'm installing this on a tripod. I want to collect my readings on an interval every hour, so we're going to do once per hour. And I'm going to do it for 120 days. As you can see, I'm only using 1% of my memory in doing so. There's another position right here where we can sync time with PC. We have already done so, so we don't need to. However, I am going to do a delayed start because I'm going to start this tomorrow on May 27th. And I do also need to select my time. I'm going to have it start at exactly 10:30 a.m. The reason why I'm going to do this is I do want this unit to be offset by 1/2 hour by when the data logger starts recording. That's it. That's all I need to do. I'm going to save it, and the test is set up to start tomorrow. Next, we want to configure our node to our PT2X SDI-12 sensor. We're going to go to signal-spire.com for the device, and we're going to go to Cloud Login. I'm going to log in.
and I'm going to find my Ranger. I've already added the device here because I claimed it earlier and followed the instructions on that. Next, I'm going to go to my Ranger, and now I need to configure this sensor. Next, we're going to configure the sensor to the Ranger. First, I'm going to configure the node. I'm going to call it Tripod Ranger. And then I'm going to have it report in every once an hour, so 3600 seconds is correct. And the sampling interval is going to be the same as the report interval. Or I can change that to anything I want from there in seconds, but we're going to do the report interval and apply. Exit. Next, we're going to configure our sensors. If I have any questions on that, I'm going to go to Seametrics.com, and since this is a PT2X, I'm going to go straight to this sensor, downloads, instruction manuals, and then I'm going to scroll down and find our SDI-12 addressing, just like we found our wiring configuration. That way I know what my SDI-12 address is, as well as what my measurement commands are for this device. Right here is SDI-12, default address is 0, and I'm going to use the request all measurements command in this application. I'm going to go back to my device, and I'm going to add my first value is going to be temperature, address is 0, we're going to use the all command, sensor position 1, and then I'm going to do degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to add another one for level. Same address, same all command, value position of 2. And we're going to go feet H2. Oh, I'm now going to apply. And map is now written. I'm going to go back and make sure that we've configured all this correctly. I'm going to make sure that our tiles are configured correctly. I don't have enable history here. To do so, I have to click the switch, then click it again. That way we don't accidentally turn things on and off. That's how those tiles buttons are done. Right now level and temperature are both coming in. And down here, if we want to view that data, we have to go in there and turn on level and temperature. I'm also going to do Ranger battery and temperature in case I put it in some really hot or cold locations. Other than that, we're doing really good. And we're going to collect some data. Now that's all done, all I have to do is deploy my sensor.